Okay, I'm going to talk about how you not explaining yourself. How you don't have to explain yourself. Now, I'm going to be very specific in this audio because what I'm talking about is somebody asked me today, did I have the vaccine? A patient of mine, okay, and I do home health. I stopped working in hospitals, nursing homes, but to people who want to still work in there, I don't see anything wrong with it. Me personally, I never cared for being inside somewhere for 8 hours a day and just having to. I always liked freedom. So it never worked for me anyway, but especially during the time where the rules have gotten even more strict, I definitely don't want to be in it. But I'm going to get to what I'm talking about. I've had a couple of people that ask me, have I had the vaccine? And if I say no, they say why. And I'm beyond the point of explaining myself because there is no why. There is no reason. I don't want it. I have never had the flu shot. When I go to some of these health places, like when I get a physical and stuff, and I go to some of these urgent cares, they offer like, you know how they offer like the B12 shot and they offer the vitamin shot and they offer all this stuff. I've never had the B12 shot. It was tempting to get the B12 shot. I thought it would have been great. But you know what? I didn't want that. I didn't want it that way. I'd rather get some kind of liquefied form and drink it. I did not want it that way. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. And before I go too far into this video, I'm going to start by saying that this is not a judgment on anybody who has got the vaccine. See, I believe people should do whatever they feel is comfortable for them. If they feel like they want to take the vaccine the same way they took the flu shot, the same way you take a malaria shot before you go to certain continents, if you feel like it's best for you to take the vaccine, nobody should, the same way a person should not be shamed because they didn't take it, nobody should shame you because you did take it. So I want to start by saying that right now. But I'm seeing that this is the new way to divide people, because it looked like the race thing is losing its flavor. The race and the police brutality thing, I think, is losing its touch. Okay, it's losing its touch. I think the George Floyd thing was like was it. They're not going to get that kind of response from the public again, right? So they need something else to cause division. Okay, but no, I'm gonna get into not explaining yourself. I'm not going to explain to anybody why I decided not to take the shot. I'm not going to go into, because the media has put it into people's heads, especially so-called black people. So the guy that asked me the question was a white guy, right? Older white guy. He said, I get it. You know, black people are afraid, you know, because they feel like, because of history. That's what he said, because of something that happened in the past, because of history. I immediately said, this is why I don't like media. And I kind of got a little feisty with him. I shouldn't have, but I got feisty. I said, let me tell you something. I don't like media. I don't like the news. I don't watch CNN. I don't like Fox. I don't like ABC. I don't like media. But I meant to say I don't like mainstream media, because actually media could include YouTube. And it's some great things I found on YouTube. I mean, you can choose to look at trash, or you can choose to look at something that is good for you. Just like the store, you can choose to buy a bunch of junk, or you can choose to buy a bunch of fruit and vegetables, right? So I'm not going to say I don't like media. I take that back. I do like media, but I like it when I can choose what I watch instead of some program that's already laid out. And that's what mainstream media does. And so, so I told him, let me tell you why. I said, I grew up in Tuskegee, Alabama, because they pushing media. I know from like last year, they were pushing this narrative that it was a lot of black people that was concerned about the shot because of the Tuskegee syphilis study. And that didn't sit well with me. And I told the guy, he asked me where I was from, right? I said, Tuskegee. He said, what? I said, see what I'm talking about? You don't even know what Tuskegee is. And there's a lot of black people that didn't know what Tuskegee was when they kept asking me where I was from. Okay, like when I first moved to Cleveland, Ohio, from Tuskegee, because I transferred in the VA from Tuskegee to Cleveland. And a lot of people would ask me where I was from. A lot of black people that was like most likely born in the maybe 80s, something like that, late 80s, mid 80s. They would ask me where I was from. Now of course a lot of white people haven't heard of Tuskegee, but there was a lot of black people who have not heard of Tuskegee. So when I try to explain to them what Tuskegee was, now you will find older people, baby boomers, and even some of the older Generation X's, that when I said Tuskegee, they knew what I was talking about. Now a lot of people know about Tuskegee because it seems to stay in mainstream media a lot. But around that time, it wasn't in mainstream media that much. Okay, so most people who knew about Tuskegee is only because they knew some black history, right? And so a lot of the people who were like younger, like born in the 80s, mid 80s, or stuff like that, and beyond that, they haven't heard of Tuskegee. When I moved when I was in Cleveland and they were asking me where I was from, they haven't heard of Tuskegee. And when I said, well, have you heard of Booker T. Washington? They said no. I said, so you haven't heard of Tuskegee Institute? Have you heard of George Washington Carver? Have you heard of, stuff like that? No. Have you heard of Tuskegee Airmen? No. I say that to say this, because this is not to criticize them on not knowing about Tuskegee, because this was like around the early 2000s. Like I say, Tuskegee is in the news a lot these days, but I'm talking about this was in the early 2000s. And I say that to say that when that man asked me that, I said, that is a lie. That a lot of black people did not initially want to get the shot because they are concerned about the Tuskegee syphilis study. When people kept asking me where I was from, I kept saying Tuskegee, and they didn't know what the heck I was talking about. So how do they know about a Tuskegee syphilis study when they never even heard of Tuskegee? They never even heard of Booker T. Washington. So how would they know? They say no to the vaccine because of Tuskegee syphilis study. I said that's that bull stuff that media wants to pull out there. And I've heard these athletes, I think it was Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal and somebody else, was kind of sitting around and having this conversation about it on mainstream media, of course. And yeah, a lot of people are concerned about that Tuskegee syphilis study, but I'm like, no, they ain't. And if anybody is concerned about the Tuskegee syphilis study, they a baby boomer, because ain't nobody Generation X or millennial or whatever, Generation Y, X, Y, and Z, whatever. They ain't thinking about no Tuskegee syphilis study because most of them haven't even heard of Tuskegee. So if it is somebody that's thinking about Tuskegee syphilis study, they had to be born around that time, or they have to be from the South, or they would be a baby boomer or something. Because a lot of people haven't even heard Tuskegee. I said, so that crap that media wants to put out there is a bunch of foolishness. Right? And so that's what I was telling him. I said, so that stuff about black people having reservations because of stuff that happened to them. I said, no. Because of some Tuskegee syphilis study, no. But the older black people who do remember that and have some reservations, they might have a right to. And I refuse to tolerate a non-black person telling somebody that they need to get over something like that. So if you do have a black person that might have a grandfather or a great-grandfather who was around during that time, because maybe they grew up in the South, and maybe if they didn't grow up in the South, they had family that's from the South, and they have family that was a part of that study, you can't tell them how to feel. I'm having a major issue with society, especially non-black people. And I'm not no pro-black person. I never got on non-black people like this. I've never, ever got on non-black people like this. But you don't ever tell a black person that they should trust COVID-19 shots and get over whatever happened in Tuskegee. You need to shut up. You need to shut up. Okay, but that's not the case though. That's not the case though. That's media pushing that crap. A lot of people that haven't even heard of Booker T. Washington. But I'm all for that. I'm all for that. So, but yeah. So piggybacking off the self-love video that I made yesterday, a huge part of self-love for me is not explaining myself to other people, right? Not explaining myself to other people. If I don't want to get the doggone shot, I don't want to get the shot. I'm not going to tell you why. I'm not going to give my power to you by telling you why I don't want to take the shot. The same reason I didn't take the flu shot. The same reason I didn't get that B12 shot, even though I was tempted. Right? If I'd rather drink a liquefied form of it, I'd rather drink a liquefied form of like the B12 shot, not the vaccine. Okay. But you know, and so his wife came out too, but she didn't hear our earlier conversation though. She just happened to come out into the living room, and we started talking about it, you know. And she talked about how, yeah, she had the shot, of course, and she talked about, well, you can barely feel it, and so like, well, I probably can barely feel the B12 shot too, but I ain't get that. But she talked about how she had a friend that practices Tai Chi, right? And he doesn't want the shot either. And I told her, I said, yeah. I said, because more than likely, if you see people who are real practitioners of Tai Chi or other stuff like that, you know, they're not going to be so quick to get a vaccine, because people like that truly believe that the body can heal itself. And so, you know, you can't convince a person like that to go get the shot. I told her the same thing with like Buddhists, people who are Buddhists, right? A lot of people who are Buddhists strongly believe in a connection to self, and strongly believe in the self being your doctor, your true self being your doctor, your higher self, or however you want to call it. And they truly believe in being guided. They truly believe in inner guidance. And so, you know, you would be very unlucky to go to a place where there's a lot of Buddhists. You would probably get your feelings hurt if you want to go into one of those Buddhist temples or whatever and see a bunch of those Buddhists, a bunch of them meditating, and walk your butt in there and say, well, have you had the vaccine? You might get they'll look at you like you're crazy, because they don't believe in stuff like that, okay? And, you know, I was going to say, and, you know, people need to get out of asking why. But you know what? I think people are a lost cause. Because this is why I kind of been offline, because there is no more reasoning, I think, with people anymore. I don't think there's any more reasoning with a lot of people. They don't understand that there's a problem in a person who, I would say, who has a different belief. Like, for example, if Dr. Sebi were alive, do you think he would take that vaccine? Knowing what you knew about Dr. Sebi, do you think he would take that vaccine? Some people are just herbalists, naturopathic type of doctors, right? And so people like that don't believe in taking the vaccine because it kind of goes against their beliefs and their practices. And so, you know, people, and I'm saying this because I know it's not going to happen, because I'm going to say it. I said it yesterday. Society's trash. Society is trash. And the only reason why I put up with society is because to pay my bills. But society is trash. And that's the reason why I don't get online like I used to and talk about, oh, people. No, because what I was about to say is that people need to get out of thinking that everybody should take the vaccine. Some people have a different set of beliefs. Like that person that she said practices Tai Chi. More than likely, people who practice Tai Chi, 9 times out of 10, will not get a vaccine. People who are Buddhists, who believe in strong connection to self and believe in following inner self, more than likely will not follow Bill Gates or Fauci, whatever, into getting a vaccine. And so, but I realize that you can't say that to people these days. You can't say that to them. It's almost like they have a battery in them, right? You can't convince them that everybody is not afraid they're going to drop dead. It's just not in their beliefs. A lot of people who don't want that vaccine don't take prescription medicines either. If they can help it, they try not to take prescription medicines. So when you have a people who will be in a 10 out of 10 pain, which I've seen this before, I've seen people who will tolerate 10 out of 10 pain before they take a Tylenol, right? So a person who will be in excruciating pain and still won't take something like a Tylenol or Advil, what's the chances of them getting a vaccine? What's the chances? And for some reason, people are so programmed by media, by mainstream media, that they have lost any ability to understand or to see somebody else's perspective. And I thought I ran out of room. And with that being said, I'm gonna let this go, and I'm probably gonna put up another upload about self-love, because this is gonna tie into it, because part of healing, because healing is very important. Learning to get self-love from within is important. But while this is the point I was making on that other video, because I'm gonna do a second part to it. While it's your job, because can't nobody else do it for you, right? So while it's your job to love yourself, to work on your own inner healing, and to work on your own, to connect to your own inner self, because healing comes from within. While that's all true, and it's your job, it's your job to work on your own healing and work on your own self-love. It's also your job to make sure you don't tolerate the foolishness that's coming from society. But what I was talking about in my first video is like, people feel like it's their job to push hate, though. It's your job to work on your own healing, but other people, like you see wickedness growing, narcissism growing, and stuff like that. Just like these people's inability to understand that everybody who didn't get the vaccine is not because they're afraid they're going to drop dead. Some people, like I said, will go 10 out of 10 pain before they take a doggone Advil or a Tylenol or whatever medicine, leave, whatever. I said, so most likely a person like that won't get the vaccine. But people have lost their ability to understand where another person coming from. And so part of self-healing is not taking that crap right there. And that's kind of what I was trying to say in the other video, is that when you're on your journey to healing, and when you're on your journey to loving yourself, a huge part of that process is not tolerating that kind of crap. It's not tolerating that kind of crap. It's like I have no tolerance for it. I have no patience for it. I'm not going to explain to you. You're not going to force me into doing something I don't want to do because of mainstream media. And so, but I'm going to go into more what I'm talking about with self-love and stuff, because I did an upload about, it's called About Self-Love. And the point I was trying to make is that I agree that you are responsible for your own self-healing. But I also agree that there should be no tolerance for hate. There should be zero tolerance for hate. And it seems like people, I made the example of, an example of black women being bashed all over media, right? And it was a guy that said that, well, it's not our, it was a person who's talks about colorism a lot. She said that a black guy was like saying, well, it's not our job to uplift you. It's your job to uplift you. You need to get it for yourself. You need to get some self-esteem about yourself, right? Okay, but while I'm getting some self-esteem about myself, I need to stay the hell away from you because apparently it's your job to tear me down. Okay? So people love to say it ain't their job to lift you up, but it's definitely their job to tear you down. And that seems to be society all together. Not just, the black women and black bashing thing is just an example. But that just seems to be, people feel like it's their job all around. It's your job to lift yourself up, but it's their job to tear you down. See how backwards and messed up that is? It should be everybody's job to learn to love one another. That should be a requirement. Because it's because of people like that like to make it their mission to tear somebody else down. It's people like that that's the reason so many people need therapy or need to work on self-healing in the first place. Because of folks like that think it's their job to cause trauma in somebody else's life. And so other people need to work on healing, like for example of rape, for example of molestation, for example of whatever, a lack of emotional support. It's folks like that is the reason why other people need to work on healing in the first place. So maybe it should be a requirement instead of you telling somebody that they should work on getting some self-esteem about themselves, or, it's your job to lift yourself up, which is all true. But it should be a requirement for everybody to learn to love one another. That should be a law. That should be a law, because most of the healing that has to take place is because of somebody else who wanted to cause pain in somebody else's life. And I get this, hurt people. But you got other people who are hurt that refuse to deal with their own issues, that would rather put their baggage on somebody else. And that's what society all around seems to do, not just black folks. Society does that. And it's because of people like that so much therapy is needed in the first place. Because somebody lost their child to gun violence. Because somebody else didn't want to handle their inner demons. Somebody else got to deal with the trauma of losing their child. They got to get therapy because somebody else didn't want to get therapy for themselves. See, so it should be a law to treat people how you want to be treated, and it should be a law to love one another, and it wouldn't be so much of this, But I'm gonna get into another. I'm gonna get into another video about that. Because that's something that I just have not heard people talk about that much. I'm gonna say that much. Maybe it's been talked about, but there's a lot of talk about self-love and inner healing and all that stuff, but there's never any talks about how it should be a requirement. Or it should be no tolerance for hate. It should be no tolerance for wickedness. There's no more, but there's still some good people out there. Oh, there's still some good people? What does still mean? What do you mean when you say there are still some good people? It sounds like you're saying that the good people are rapidly declining. It sounds like you're saying the good people are rapidly declining. Why would you have to say there are still some good people out there? You don't say there's still some evil people out there, because they are abundant. The wicked people are abundant. So you never hear anybody say, oh, there's still some wicked people out there. No, you'll never hear anybody use that language, because wickedness is abundant. But the good, kind-hearted people is starting to become a rarity. And so now you have somebody who wants to stay positive. Nothing wrong with that, but you got people who want to stay positive, who say, well, there are still some good people out there. I said, see, this is the issue, is that kind of statement, although it's true, it's giving more, you're tolerating wickedness. You're allowing the wickedness to continue to grow. It's nothing wrong with seeing the good, but there's too much tolerance for wickedness. And when you tolerate wickedness, when you keep tolerating wickedness like that, it continues to grow. That energy becomes a lot stronger. And then you're going to have people that have to deal with trauma and healing for the rest of their lives. They'll never get finished healing because wickedness keep increasing. So trauma is going to continue to be inflicted on the masses. But anyway, that's it. I'm probably going to make another upload about that because I didn't mean to segue into that. And so I'll probably make another upload about that. But, to go into a greater detail because I want to talk about I want to get a little bit more on that. But I'll talk later. Okay.